Margie here. Do you ever feel burdened down with clutter, whether it's physical clutter, mental clutter? Regardless, this could be impeding your health goals. And today I'm so excited because we're going to talk about living lighter. What can we do? And our special guest is both a friend and colleague, Heather Artema. And Heather is the founder of the School of Living Lighter. She's an optimistic builder-upper, mama of two, mountain biker, declutterer, aspiring minimalist, and fan of homemade and not perfect. As a former corporate executive, she spent years creating ads designed to convince people that they needed to purchase her client's latest innovation to be happy. Feeling the years slipping by and eager for more meaning, she discovered minimalism, a powerful pathway towards intentionality. With an unusual amount of energy, she left the corporate world to pursue her dream of helping women uncomplicate their lives. Today, as a board certified coach and expert in behavior change, and feeling way more fit and energetic at 46 than she was at 26, she guides her clients towards their own weight loss breakthroughs by helping them clear the clutter in their minds, bodies, and homes, so that they can get busy living lives they love as well. So in today's talk, we really discuss some easy tweaks we can do to live lighter. So stay tuned. Welcome, Heather. I can't even tell you how excited I am to have you. I love what you're going to talk about today. And I think it's something that all of us can relate to. And it may not seem it's so important. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so delighted to be here with you, Margie. Thank you.
Well, we're going to talk about living light. And I'm a big person who just believes in white light and living light. But why don't we just talk about, before living light, what's the problem with clutter? Like, how do you define it? And why is it such a problem for so many of us?
Well, as somebody who has had a lot of clutter in her own life, this is absolutely one of my favorite topics. So the way I define clutter, it's not just the things that you see that are kind of weighing you down, or it's the piles of paper, or it's the closet where you can't find anything because it's just so stuffed, but it's also the thoughts. It's the thoughts that are weighing you down, the thoughts that are telling you that you're not enough, or that you're too much, the thoughts that are saying that you're not worthy, or that you're just too loud or too big. All of those thoughts are clutter as well. And so Peter Walsh, he's Oprah's organizational guru, and he defines clutter as really like anything that gets in the way of you living your best life. And I really like that definition, because clutter just goes so much further than just unnecessary things in your life.
And the problem is with clutter is that it really can affect everything. So here we're trying to eat well, and everyone's trying to take care of themselves, for their bones, for their overall health. We're trying to exercise, we're trying to eat well, but we're burdened down with this clutter, and we may not even realize it. Am I right on like an energetic level, how it's affecting us?
Oh my gosh. And it is impacting us on so many different levels. Briefly, there was a study done in California, and it was some ethnographic research, and they went into the homes of these families, and they observed them over the course of a day, and they measured their cortisol levels, their stress hormone levels. And when the women that lived in these homes, when they were talking about their homes, if they were saying things like, oh, my house is a mess, or it's cluttered, there's just a lot going on, whatever their perspective was really impacted their cortisol levels. So those that were saying that it was cluttered, their cortisol was through the roof. And then the women that were saying like, oh no, my house, I love my house, it's calm, it's friendly, things like that. Well, of course, their cortisol was exactly right where it should be. So there's this physiological response that we have when we see clutter. Now, are some people more sensitive to it than others? Absolutely. For some reason, my husband does not seem to be bothered by clutter, but I am. And so it's like, if our boys, we have two boys, and if they leave their socks out in the living room, I can just feel it inside of me, where my husband's like, it's no big deal. So it does change from person to person. Some of us are more sensitive, as I mentioned, but it is a real thing.
Wow. And think about that, because cortisol reduces the osteoblast, the bone building cells, as well as so many negative health consequences. So that's sort of good news, that if you could clear clutter, both, as you say, emotional and the physical clutter.
Yes.
What a night. It's interesting though, because I have an issue with clutter. I really do. It's the last thing I deal with. I really, in terms of like, my house will look really clean, but if you open the closet, there could be piles. And so during the pandemic, we did a clutter challenge and really started decluttering. And I didn't realize how much it bothered me. I had no idea how freeing. It wasn't that I realized it bothered me. It was just how light, as you say, I felt when I started decluttering. It's
Yes.
amazing. I don't know if people realize that, how important this is.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, frankly, if you have a messy corner in your office and you just spend 10 or 15 minutes picking that up, it will give most people an energy boost, exactly like what you're saying. And but sometimes it can be really hard to let go of things. And when it's really hard, what I recommend is that we look at the stories that we're creating with those things. So for example, I have a file cabinet, 3 drawers, and I decided I don't want it anymore. I'd really rather get rid of it. Why am I storing all these things? Like, do I really need this very large file cabinet? When really the most important things to store are maybe my will and my birth certificates and social security numbers. Like, really, do I need this? And so I started going through it, and it was fascinating because I was like, why have I held on to certain pieces of paper for so long? And I got curious about it. And I realized, for example, I was looking at one, and it was a picture of me decades ago. And it was a picture, a professional picture that had been taken for my corporate world when I was had a corporate life. And it was a business pitch. And it was me leaning against a tire. It was probably for some kind of tire company or automotive company. And there was a little paragraph written about me. And I really liked the paragraph. And I realized the reason I had held on to it for so long was because there were so many years where I felt really empty in the corporate world. And I was really struggling to find meaning. But to me, this one piece of paper, it really, like, the story, what I made it mean was like, no, you had value, you had worth, your time wasn't totally wasted. And so when I realized the story of why I'd been keeping that paper for so long, I was able to throw it away so easily, because it's like, oh, that was just a story I'd been telling myself. I have so much worth. I'm valuable. I don't need that paper anymore to prove that my time there wasn't a waste. It's whatever I want to think about it. So often when it's hard to get rid of things, really just spend a moment, get quiet, and just think, like, what is it? What is that story that I'm telling myself that I need this thing to, for what is that reason? So yeah, we all have clutter, a lot of physical clutter, a lot of paper clutter. When I was telling my mom, I'm like, oh, I'm going to try and get rid of my file cabinet. And she laughed. My parents are in their late 70s. And she's like, oh, your dad was just talking about buying another file cabinet. And I thought, oh, that's interesting as well, right? For me, I just want to let it go. Let it all go. Life feels so much lighter when I do.
And you have a term that I love, aspiring minimalist. Why don't you explain what that is,
Yes.
and why it's something that you feel can help people? And
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was born with a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out. I really seriously have 2 sisters. I'm in the middle. And I just, all my younger years, it's like, if we had cake, I wanted to make sure I had like the biggest piece of cake. If my dad was making toast, I wanted to make sure my hand grabbed that piece of toast faster than anybody else's. Like, if there were parties, I wanted to be invited. I really had a lot of FOMO. And I was also a maximalist. I thought things could make me happy long term. I mean, they do. There's that nice little dopamine hit when we buy something in the beginning, and there is that happiness. That's not artificial. That's there. But over time, that wears off. And I spent a lot of time in the beginning, of my life thinking like more was more, and that happiness came from more things, more people, more clutter on the calendar, really. And it was when I decided to leave corporate, and this is 5 years ago. I give my corporate career a B. It was lots of great challenges. I had the best cube in the row, according to all my coworkers, because I had all the sunlight, but I was feeling a little bit empty. And I wanted to get into the health and wellness field, into the health and wellness industry. That's what spoke to my heart. And I decided to leave corporate, and I came upon this, I think it's just the most beautiful idea ever of intentionality. And it's minimalism. And sometimes, well, when I first heard the term minimalism, I thought it meant frugality and deprivation and just like, oh, all the things that just kind of make me cringe. And I did more reading on it, and I realized, no, like, first off, it can mean whatever I want it to mean. But what I really was attracted to was this idea that minimalism is this most beautiful pathway toward intentionality. So it's all about seeing the more and less. It's still buying things. It's just buying better. It's quality over quantity. It's kind of waking up from the go mentality that so many of us have. It really shook me awake in terms of, oh, I don't need to buy all those things. Like, I can really find the beauty in fewer things, but just more intentional things. So I was this maximalist. I like to call myself an aspiring minimalist now because of the lightness that it has brought to my life. Because not only is it all those things, but it's like, wait a second, are these, sometimes I reflect back on my day and I think about the thoughts I've had. And a lot of those thoughts, they're actually just clutter in my life as well. So it's like kind of cleaning out all of those kind of victimizing thoughts, and figuring out how to be more of that hero of the story that I want to tell and the life I want to live.
Well, what I really love is that not only has it helped you, but then you've been teaching this. You have groups of women, and I was so fortunate to come to one of your classes, which was just so much fun. But, so people listening, because a lot of us, a lot of people are feeling heavy. They're not feeling that. There's just clutter all over and internal, and they're burned down.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you found with all the people you've been working with and teaching people this, and so successfully as well? What have you found, if you were going to give, where should people start, or a couple tips that everybody listening can put into their life to start decluttering and start living so that they can, start that path to living light?
Oh, for sure. So, well, I mentioned I had a lot of FOMO. And if you ask me today, do you have a lot of FOMO? That story has changed. And it was when I landed on the word, when I read it the first time, and the word is JOMO. Have you heard it? Do you know this word? Do you know what it stands for?
I'm trying to think about this. I think I've heard you mention this, but I don't. Joy? No, tell me. Yes, joy. Yes.
Joy of missing out. So
okay.
Right? You swap your fear of missing out for joy of missing out. So for example, I have my own health story. Like, that's another reason why I wanted to get into the health space, because it really spoke to my heart. And I don't want to disparage the corporate world. I think the corporate world can be beautiful and powerful for so many people, but for me, it just wasn't a very good fit. And so I flipped my FOMO for JOMO in so many different areas, and my life got so much lighter, not only just in terms of the thoughts and the things I have, but my physical weight as well. So for example, I don't eat certain foods, and some people could say like, oh, that stinks, that's too bad. And for me, it's like, oh, no, like, I found the joy of missing out, the joy of not eating those things. Because if I don't eat those things, like, I was somebody that could eat 4 bagels in a row. I've always had that big appetite, right? Like, there's the FOMO, right? And, but the bagels weren't doing me any good. And so when I found that JOMO, it was such an easy pivot to be like, oh, why don't I want to eat the bagels? Well, I'll put on a bunch of pounds. I have some autoimmune conditions as well. And so my body just doesn't like gluten in general. So if I eat the bagels, well, then I'm going to have to get the crutches out, because I'm probably going to be limping around in pain. Like, you find those reasons for not doing something that you would just generally do on autopilot. That's not very good for you. So today I still eat bagels. I want you to know, I just eat very different intentional bagels. So I still enjoy them, but it's a relationship that's on my terms versus, food just happening to me.
Oh, I love that. Jomo versus, and that's easy. It's an easy tweak in your mind. If you're thinking of that, that's great. And how does that because you work with so many people with weight loss as well. And so are there any other tweaks for those with that same Jomo? Is there anything with the food, other things that you
Yeah,
tell
well,
them? Yeah, that's so helpful.
I always say with Jomo, you can keep the list small. Like I'm like, create a Jomo list of foods that you want to experiment with, right? And it's not a forever thing, but it's just like, a week or two. Maybe you want to try not drinking alcohol for a week or two, just to see what will happen. That experimentation, somebody smart once said, life is an experiment. And I really like that idea, but at least we can break it down into like smaller increments so that it doesn't feel like, oh, you have to stop drinking for the rest of your life, or, oh, you have to stop eating bagels for the rest of your life, because that creates mental clutter, right? That feels heavy on the heart. And then it's like, oh, then you end up eating or drinking those things. And then it's like, then you've got shame and all kinds of emotional clutter on the back end. And so what I like to say is create a really small Jomo list, like make it small. One thing or two things, and experiment with that. And if you identify one of the, I also like to ask, like, what do you think is the one thing that's getting between you and your weight loss goals? And when we give ourselves a little bit of space and time to think about it and to get honest, we usually know. So it might be the Diet Pop, the Diet Coke. Like it really, like if you figure out the Diet Coke thing, like the pounds might just fall off. It doesn't have to be everything. Like I think that's why weight loss sometimes feels so overwhelming, is that we feel like we have to go all or nothing, or we feel like we have to go, we have to live these like very stark lifestyles and we can't eat anything good. And of course that's not sustainable. And so it's like, sometimes it's just figure out your one thing that you can take a break from, and life will just get so much lighter because of that.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so we're going to do Jomo instead of FOMO. Yay. That's great. I really love that. All right. So do you have any other ones? Because that's a great one to put into our life right away.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, so another thing that I like to think through with people, I spend a lot of time in life, like feeling a lot of heaviness, and for everybody, life is 50-50. It's half good. It's half bad. It's half sunshine. It's half shadow. You can be really skinny and miserable, and you can be really rich and miserable. So it's not our circumstances that create our happiness. It's really not. It's the thoughts that we decide to have along the way. And so one of the things I like to do is anytime I come to a decision point, which happens a lot, of course, like when we're conscious and aware. But if there's something kind of heavy in my life, and I'm thinking about it and I want to make a decision, I ask myself, does this feel heavy or does this feel light? And not just right now in the moment, but a week from now. What am I going to wish I did a week from now? So for example, a friend of a friend, somebody came into town a little while ago, and I knew, oh gosh, like I can try and get these other things done really, really fast. And then I can drive up, 45 minutes there and then do another drive home. And it just felt heavy to me. And when I just decided, like the pleaser in me always wanted to say yes to everything. And I decided to say no to that. And when I said no to that, it felt really light, because I knew I could then focus on what matters most. And what mattered most to me in that moment was spending a quiet evening in the backyard with my kids. And so I did have to say, I said no to a good opportunity, a friend I hadn't seen for a while coming into town, but I said no to that good opportunity so that I could then experience a great opportunity, which is hanging out in a relaxed way with my kids, who I also felt like I hadn't seen very much of lately because of camps and work and all of that. So that's, another tip I would say is, like, with every decision, ask yourself, does it feel heavy? If it feels heavy, go the opposite route, go light. Anytime you go light, like, you always go right. You really do at the end of the day, because you're listening to your intuition. And that's really important.
Do you have any techniques where do you stop? Do you close your eyes? Do you feel it in the body? Do you do a body scan? Is there anything that can help with, because a lot of people are just so, are going, and really not tuned into their body and even into how they're feeling. So do you have any good tips for really
Yeah.
tuning in to feel. Is it, I love that. Does it feel heavy or does it feel light? But is there any tips that you have for when you're trying to figure out, or
Yeah.
even just paying attention to that? Because we can be so busy, we don't even stop to think about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do, and that's good because we're all so different and we operate in different ways, and what will work for one might not work for the next. But so I've got there's a couple steps that I like to use with anything that's important. So we are going so fast, have to go to work, have to make money, have to pay the mortgage, have to fill the calendar, have all, there's just so much clutter, kind of time clutter in our lives. And so it's really rare for us to slow down and to listen. So I talk about this as kind of, you have to carve out some open space or some margin in your day. And it's kind of get away from any kind of stimuli and sit down, maybe close your eyes and just ask yourself whatever that question is that you're having. And so often when we initially come upon like, okay, here's what I'm going to do, what will happen is that the head will fill with so many ideas on why it won't work. So for example, let's say, you want to lose some physical weight. All right, I want to lose 10 pounds. And you've gone to a quiet spot and you thought, like, what really is it? What is it? Okay, I want to lose 10 pounds. Well, right after having that thought, the head will say, oh, but you can't because so-and-so, it's a birthday and your parents are coming over and your neighbor is going to make you this. And so it's the second step. Like the first step is listen. And the second step is just let go. Let go of all those reasons. They're just thought errors designed to keep you exactly where you are right now. And so if you let go of those, all of a sudden the opportunities start to emerge. And if you get curious about those, that's where the magic happens. And so that third step is learn. And that's all about experimentation, which we were talking about earlier. What's the one thing you want to experiment with, right? It's where you try different things out and where you're like, oh, do I have some FOMO there? How can I flip that to JOMO? Or wait, does this decision feel light or heavy? It feels heavy. What can I do to make it feel light? What are the few things that I could do to really change this narrative? So that's where you have fun and you play and you get curious. And when we get curious and we start doing things, that really builds some confidence because we're starting to get results. And with that confidence, just all of our dreams start to really come true. Like it really can be broken down that simply. Like what I like to help women uncomplicate their lives, right? There's just so much complication that we can take on if we want to, and we take on subconsciously. But really, it does get that simple when we just decide, where's the FOMO? How can I flip it to JOMO? What feels heavy? What feels light? And what matters most to me at the end of the day? So we can say, the friend that came out, I adore that friend. She does matter to me, but I need to listen to myself at that moment to see what mattered most in that moment. And so it's, those are just little devices you can use to start living a more simpler, happier life.
And they're so powerful. That's what I've seen in my practice for all these years. Is these are the things that really, it's one thing to say, yeah, I have to eat better, I have to do this. But when you make these mindset changes and when you are living lighter, you're able to incorporate that in a way. And I love those little tweaks of yours. That's so great. I adore your class. And have you found that the power of the group helps people with this? What have you found? Because I know that's part of what you do with your group, but have you found that makes a difference and they help each other with this?
Oh yeah, well, so you're referring to it's a membership. It's called Living Lighter, and there are women in there around the globe, but they all have this focus of, okay, I'd like life to feel lighter, and I would like to lose a few pounds as well. And when we address our mental and emotional weight, the physical weight, when we address the mental and emotional weight correctly, the physical weight comes off. It really does. And so, yes, in this particular group in Living Lighter, it's a beautiful, supportive, wonderful group. And we do fun things. So for example, we're doing a play challenge right now, because when you get more play in your life gets lighter, right? And so they're sharing pictures of of playing out on the kayak or mountain bike. There's some that are mountain bike riding, spending time in the garden, playing with color, playing with different milks. Like seriously, milk, getting curious, like let's try the oat milk. Let's try the hemp milk. Let's try the coconut milk. That's play as well. Like when we think about change, it doesn't have to be hard. If we weave in this element of play into everything we do, it's amazing. And so, yeah, so in Living Lighter, you were there, right? Like we did, like
I had such, it was such a wonderful group.
Yeah.
And I really could see any person, and the focus there was weight loss, but in an immediate, I mean, so much more happens than just weight. And I really believe that too with weight loss. When you start doing different habits and when you change your thought process, the weight just falls off, which is so nice when all these other things happen. But it was great. I loved how everybody interacted. And I think I'm a big believer in the group, and the group really does, because it's hard to do things on your own. And yes, you can, of course, but sometimes, I mean, even just having a buddy, but it was a wonderful atmosphere. So I'll tell everybody while we're on this. So what's the best way if they want to learn more, if they want to keep in touch with you, learn all your little special things?
Sure. So I have a free group on Facebook, and it's the Live Light community. So the idea is we're all living lighter together. And so I spend some time there on that Facebook community. And then of course I'm on, the Instagrams of the world and all of those things too. And I want to say, like, I think one of the things that's so beautiful about coming together, it's coming together around a common desire. And this desire of, you know what, life is busy and I'm trying to carve out more balance. And I'd like life to be a little more calm. And so in this membership, like where we focus on mind clutter, body clutter, and home clutter. And when we adjust in like that 3-pronged approach, when we address those types of clutter in our life, I mean, we can cheer each other on, right? Oh, you decluttered the physical clutter. Awesome. Or you like cleaned out your kitchen cabinets, or like, I mean, because ingredients can be clutter in our bodies, right? So when we're open to like opening up this definition of clutter, it is really powerful. And I just see how powerful it is, not only for myself in my own experience, but for all the women in that group as well.
I love this because I believe that this is incredibly powerful, and it's not something that people think about when they're trying to improve their health, their bones. It really, oh, is there too much clutter in my life? But I challenge everybody to start with your first step, with the FOMO and the JOMO and some of these steps. And I really bet you'll notice not quite yet, a pretty immediate changes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And ask yourself, like when the next time you're at the store, ask yourself, like, okay, wait, is this spontaneous purchase? Like, why am I buying this thing? What do I think it's going to do for me? And I'm not against buying things at all, but we have this equation that's out of balance. We have so many things coming in the house and very few things leaving the house. And so it's just one of those, like, and we know, like, when we have all this stuff weighing us down, it impacts as we mentioned, our physiological side, but it also impacts our decision making. It impacts, like, of course, we want to buffer from all the clutter with the candy bars and all the different things. And so I do believe this could be like the one, if you address your clutter, it could be the one thing that really makes your life lighter from all dimensions.
And I'm going to take your advice because I have made good progress, but I have so much more to go. So this is going to motivate me to let's continue with my head's pretty decluttered, but not the physical.
Yes.
And the thing is, nature doesn't like a vacuum. So when we declutter, there's room then for other things to come in, other positive things.
We create so much more space. And that's the thing, I was out mountain biking with my family the other day, and we were on this beautiful trail, and there's a little river, and we're in the mountains. And I stopped for a moment with my youngest son, and I'm like, let's not say a word and let's just listen. And everything served a purpose, right? In nature, it was visually beautiful. What we heard was amazing. There's a little bit of rain coming down and the sun was out. I mean, it was just perfect. And I think we can use nature as a teacher for the environments we want to create or our surroundings in our own homes. And it's like, there's no clutter in nature. How can we remove the clutter that's in our homes? Because ideally, at the end of the day, our homes serve us and they help us live our highest, truest selves. And so we don't want the home to be a detractant, or the office space, or the garage, or the storage unit. I mean, this is an issue a lot of people are dealing with if you just look at the number of people who have storage units, right? And so anyway, it's like, let go of those things, let go of the thoughts that aren't serving you, and life just gets so much better. And it is a choice. All of this really, truly is a choice that we can make on our own behalf.
That's great. Any last minute things, or that's a great way to end? Anything?
That have fun. I'll just say, like, we've been like in any decluttering process, it can get overwhelming. The same for weight loss. Like, really, at the end of the day, all these journeys are the same. You got to feel your feelings, let them move through you so that you can move forward. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. Don't indulge in that feeling. If you're starting to feel it, all you need to do is take a step back and find that quiet space again and listen and say, just ask yourself, how do I move forward in a way that is going to work for me?
I love this. And you're talking to a person who truly does believe in fun. And so I totally agree with what you said. And this is so important. I'm just so glad that we had this opportunity. I can't thank you enough for coming on, sharing it, because this is critical. This is so life-changing. And as you said, I mean, you work, that's your area, you're an expert in weight loss, but you've seen when you change these things, the weight just comes off. How wonderful. And so with so many other physical conditions, once you make these changes. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I have rheumatoid arthritis, but it's been years since I've used my crutches or my slings or any of my things, and I'm not on any pharmaceutical. Like, I 100%, like, it just makes life so much lighter in all aspects when we adjust our clutter.
I know we're ending, but you know what? Do you want to just, it's such a great story. I should have really asked you this in the beginning. Do you want to just do a real quick synopsis? Because it is pretty amazing that you were able to move beyond. A lot of people have issues that they don't move beyond. Do you want to just quickly tell us,
sure. Well,
before we end? Yeah.
Okay. I'm in my mid 40s now, and I was in my early 30s when I had my first rheumatoid arthritis flare. And I went to a rheumatologist, and I'm not saying all rheumatologists are the same. I'm just going to share my personal experience with this one. And she wanted to put me on some very, very heavy duty medicine. And I was already on some other medicines for other things. And I asked her, I'm like, do you think food might play a role in any of this? And she's like, there's no research. And I'm like, okay, I totally understand that. Like, the organic carrot farmers are not going to pay for research. Like, I get that. But do you think food might play a role on this? And she's like, no, absolutely not. I do not. And she was really more interested in directing my attention into which drug I was going to start taking. And it didn't sit well with me. And so I tried changing the doctor. I called the Arthritis Association, and they said, no, this is the one you get. And so I didn't go back. And instead I decided to experiment, decided to learn. It's that third step, right? So I played around with food, and it's quite tremendous. I was having flares, rheumatoid arthritis flares, very often. And I did this experiment, 30 plus days. I had flares every day as my body was detoxing, but I was really specific on what I was eating. But on day 31 or day 32, I woke up with no flares. And then the whole rest of that year, I think I only had 2 or 3 flares total. And this is just changing my diet. And so there are definitely tweaks that I've made to the diet since then. It keeps evolving as I evolve. But the thought that, oh, this is going to be my situation for the rest of my life, that was actually mental clutter for me. And then the thought that, well, no, food has no role in how I feel, that was also mental. I decided it was mental clutter. I decided not to buy into that and to do whatever I could so that I could show up the way I wanted to. So definitely in that experience, lots of, originally, when I first got the diagnosis, it's like, poor me and so forth. But I was like, how's that thought going to serve me? It's not going to serve me. And so when I got curious, things just got so much better. And yeah, and it's if I am surrounded by a mess, I feel that, and I could easily get, a flare in my fingers or something like that. So that's why it's really, even though I have help for my kids to help me, Saturday morning jobs and things like that. I could do it all. I don't want to do it all. And even if they complain and don't want to do it, I don't care. Everybody rolls up their sleeves and they all help to keep our house. It's not clutter free, but that's we're heading in that direction so that we are living in a home that really, really builds our health and gives us the best opportunities possible.
Wow, it's very inspiring, and it goes along with never give up and clear out those negative thoughts, clear out that clutter. And it's just so wonderful. It's also the silver lining that look at all the amazing things you've done because of that you created, what you've created. It's just fabulous. So I'm glad yeah, it's also wonderful. Well, it's always such a pleasure to be with you. And thank you for sharing your amazing wisdom with all of us. And look forward to staying in touch, as I know we will.
Thank you, Margie. I love the work that you do, and I love the way you do it with your big smile and your energy. So I appreciate being here, and thanks for giving me space to share this message.
Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed my interview with Heather and now have some new tools to help you live lighter and reduce the clutter that may be impeding your health goals. All the links we talked about will be in the show notes. So bye for now, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.